Most buyers in Montreal underestimate the cash they need by 8 to 12%, not because they can't do math, but because the money leaves at different times. Today, I'll show you exactly what you pay and when you pay it with 3 real price bands so you can buy without surprises. Today, I want to give a huge shout out to Le Studio Canes located in the South Shore of Montreal. If you're looking to record a podcast or any short form video, this is the place to be. Robin's an absolute gem. Check out their website at lestudiocanes.ca. I'm LJ Aguinaga with LJ Realties here in Montreal. I've helped hundreds of families buy and invest across the greater Montreal area, from condos to plexes, and nothing explains a great deal like cash flow timing. So in this video, I'll map out every dollar from offer to notary, after closing, using real world examples, a $450,000 condo, a $900,000 townhome, and a $1.2 million duplex. By the end, you'll know your true cash needed and which buffer level makes sense for you. Let's start with the cost stack, the full list of buckets you should plan for. First, the down payment. That's the amount you put down, or more specifically, the percentage you put down impacts other costs and whether the mortgage is insured or uninsured. Next, we have closing and professional fees. This includes things like inspection costs, appraisal if required, and notary fees. At the notary, you will also have adjustments. These are the prorated municipal and school taxes, condo fees if applicable, and for income properties, rent proration. Most of these expenses and revenues are paid in advance, thus the notary has to adjust them on a pro rata basis. If you get an insured mortgage, then you'll have to pay the mortgage insurance tax. All insurance policies in Quebec come with a 9% tax. This one is no different. Even though you are financing the mortgage insurance premium, you will have to pay the tax portion at the time of closing. Now, everyone's favorite, welcome tax or land transfer tax. In the greater Montreal area, this cost is usually tiered, increasing as properties get more expensive. The higher the purchase price or municipal valuation, the higher the tax applied to the amount. This is a post-closing bill that you'll receive in the mail. We're almost there, but then we have a few more things like the move-in and setup. A lot of buyers forget to factor in moving, appliances, small renos, utilities, and immediate furniture. These things add up, and if you don't have them in your budget, you're in it for a rude awakening. Finally, a buffer. I'd say only 5% of buyers have this in their budget. Having a buffer amount in your budget is what saves you from last-minute stress. It's not just how much, it's when. And here's your cash calendar. At offer, or right after acceptance, we have the inspection fee, assuming you do one, which I always recommend. We might also have a deposit in certain cases. The deposit can be payable at the time the offer is accepted or 72 hours after waiving of all conditions. The funds will sit in trust until the actual closing. Next, before the notary, you'll have to have your down payment ready at least 2 business days before the notary closing. If you have the funds in a registered account like an HFSA, RRSP, or TFSA, please ensure you start the withdrawal process at least 2 weeks before the closing date. At the notary, also known as the closing day, you'll need to have the notary fees, the adjustments, and the tax on the mortgage insurance premium. After closing, you'll have the following expenses. The welcome tax bill from the city, which usually arrives in the mail 30 to 60 days after you close. You'll then have 30 days to pay it from the date of emission, without any penalties or fees. And finally, you'll have your move-in and setup costs over the first few weeks of being a homeowner. Now, let's discuss insured versus uninsured cash impacts. A quick comparison to make this real. Same purchase price, 2 paths. If we look at an insured mortgage, that's when you put less than 20% as your down payment. This will allow for more cash to be conserved up front. The mortgage insurance premium will be financed, which will result in a higher monthly payment, but it's lower upfront cash. Then there are uninsured or conventional mortgages. These are 20% or more down payments. These require more cash up front, and they usually lead to lower monthly payments with more lender options. Adjustments, the sneaky line items. Adjustments are the silent budget killers because they're small individually, but they add up quick. Expect municipal and school tax prorations, condo free prorata, rent proration for plex closings occurring mid-month. These are settled on the notary's statement of adjustments, and make sure you've reviewed it before the closing date. The buffer plan, your stress proofing. Here's my rule of thumb for buffers. Choose one of them. First, we have the lien, approximately 3% of the purchase price, for very stable situations and newer properties. Next, we have the standard option, approximately 5%. This fits most buyers and covers typical surprises. Finally, we have the safe approach, approximately 7 to 8% of the purchase price, good for older properties when you're planning on doing some renos, or if you just hate stress. Park this buffer in a high-interest savings account and don't touch it until you're past the first few months of being in the property. Now that you know what you'll pay and when, let's run 3 price bands so that you can see your total cash needed end to end. I'll keep the math simple here, and on screen, we'll pull the exact totals from our calculator. Let's start with a $450,000 condo, ideal for first-time buyers. We'll explore 3 down payment paths, 5%, 10%, and 20%. This is the largest line item in our budget unless you're doing a major renovation. At less than 20% down, you'll have a mortgage insurance premium that gets added to the mortgage. It's not paid in cash. So, with the 5% down, you're looking at $22,500. At 10% down, you would need $45,000. And at 20% down, you would be at $90,000. Next, we have closing costs. First, we have an inspection, and that'll run you about $550 to $800. Then, there are notary fees between $2,000 to $2,500. If an appraisal is required, it'll be around $500. Then, the adjustments are calculated based on the date of the closing. Remember, it's prorated amount for the property taxes and condo fees. I usually calculate a conservative scenario to help protect our buyers. I use 50% of the annual taxes and 100% of 1 month's condo fees. For this example, we're looking at about $2,500. We also can't forget the tax on the mortgage insurance premium. In this example, the premium would be $17,100, which you are financing. We'll need to cover the 9% tax. That works out to $1,539. Next up, we have welcome tax. This is calculated on Montreal's tiered brackets. Assuming the municipal valuation is less than our $450,000 purchase price, you'd be looking at just over $4,900. Finally, we have our move-in costs and buffer. Movers will likely set you back about $1,000. As for the buffer, let's use a 3% rule. That gives us $13,500. Now, let's head over to a $900,000 townhouse. This is typically a buyer looking to move up. For the down payment, many clients moving up aim for 20% or more to avoid the mortgage insurance premiums. But we'll show you a 10% path too, so you see the trade-offs. 10% down for this property would be $90,000, and 20% down will be $180,000. Don't forget, if you're selling your initial condo to make this purchase a reality, you'll likely have access to some tax-free profits from the sale of your condo, and you'll qualify for the principal residence exemption on capital gains tax. For the closing and adjustments, we'll have similar items, but typically a bit higher for a few of the line items. Inspection will be between $800 to $1,000. Notary fees and appraisal remain the same as before. Adjustments will be more expensive because the taxes will be higher. I'd say around $3,750. The mortgage insurance tax will also be higher at around $2,260 for the 10% scenario. Welcome tax will be higher due to the tiered impact. In this scenario, you're looking at roughly $13,400. Move-in costs will likely be closer to the $1,500 mark, and using the same 3% rule as a buffer, that's an extra $27,000. Don't forget to consider timing. If you're selling and buying back-to-back, you may have to coordinate bridge financing to cover the down payment between the transactions. Bridge financing will be expensive, so whenever possible, time your transactions to avoid it. Finally, let's look at a $1.2 million duplex as an owner-occupant investor. For down payment at 10% down, you're looking at $120,000, and at 20% down, it would be $240,000. With closing costs, the biggest change will be with the adjustments. When you purchase a property that is rented, we will prorate the rental income for the month at the time of closing. Therefore, if you purchase closer to the beginning of the month, you will receive a larger compensation for the rent collected. Other than that, the rest of our closing costs remain pretty similar to the other examples. The inspection will cost between $1,000 to $1,200. The notary fees and appraisal should be the same as before. Adjustments will depend on the rental income of the property. Let's use the same $3,750 as we used in the previous example. The mortgage insurance tax will be just over $3,000 in this case. Welcome tax makes a huge leap up to almost $19,900. This is due to the luxury tiers that the City of Montreal applies when calculating the land transfer tax. Your moving costs will likely run you about $1,500, but this is where the buffer might actually get the most use. Depending on the state of the unit, you might want to do some minor important repairs to the unit. In this case, using the 3% rule, we would have $36,000 available to execute on these repairs, allow for a basic unit refresh maybe, if you're occupying one of the units. Before we wrap up, here are a few common mistakes. Planning only for the down payment and forgetting the welcome tax and adjustments. Booking the notary and inspection too late and discovering surprises after conditions. underestimating the timing of cash, especially deposits and the welcome tax bill, skipping the buffer and getting stuck when small renos pop up in week 1. Finally, for plexes, not reviewing the leases and understanding the upcoming vacancies in the property. If you can see what you'll pay and when you'll pay it, the process becomes simple. If you want me to sanity check your numbers for a specific neighborhood or property type, book a 15-minute call. We'll tell you exactly what's missing or give you the green light to shop around. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.